Hello valued viewers, I hope you're all doing wonderfully well and welcome to what should be a really interesting war game. If you like ballistic missiles and shooting them down, then this is the one for you. First, a warning, there's going to be lots and lots and lots of technical detail in this one before we get into the actual shooty stuff. But if you can stick around for that, I think you'll find it really interesting. I certainly did. So the format of today's video is this. First, we'll look at the previous wargame that we did on this topic. Then we'll introduce our special guest. Yay! Then we'll look at analysis that I had to do to try and find out why we got the result in the previous wargame that we did. Then we'll take those lessons learned and apply it to a new version of the wargame and explain that. Then we'll go and shoot the missiles. So, first of all, a week ago, we did this. What is required to stop 180 Iranian ballistic missiles? Obviously, this is based on the real-life 2nd of October Iranian attack, where they fired 180 ballistic missiles at various targets in Israel. For our version, we did it a bit different. We fired 180 missiles, but instead of spreading them out at targets over Israel, we sent them all at one target, and that's because we could make a bit more of a scientific test by doing it that way. We could see all of the missiles coming in and we could see how many got through the defense system. That was what I was kind of trying to do. Anyway, we fired the missiles and I just started off with just one defensive battery, a Patriot battery. The Patriot battery put up a good fight, but soon got overwhelmed. Obviously, 180 missiles are going to overwhelm one battery. We couldn't measure how many of the ballistic missiles were shot down, so the way we measured how well the defense system did is we stopped the clock, if you like, when the ballistic missiles started getting through to the target. Then we ran a second version. We added an extra battery. We added a THAAD battery in this case and ran it again. And of course, it did better. It took out more ballistic missiles. And therefore, the time where we stopped it when the first ballistic missile started getting through was more, say a minute more. Then we added another defensive unit, an Aegis ship, I think it was. And that did better. And the time increased again. And we added more ships and more ships and more ships. But what we found is it got to a certain point where we kept adding more units, but the result didn't get any better. So at one point I had like 8 Aegis ships added in, but the time before missiles started getting through no longer increased. Therefore, the system wasn't becoming any more efficient. From memory, that time was about 7 minutes or 7.5 minutes, which is not very impressive, bearing in mind that the whole attack takes about 13 minutes. So I gave up at that point and I said, look, I can't do this. I've added all these units in and the system doesn't work. The IADS, the Integrated Air Defense System, just isn't working in DCS. I can keep adding units in and I'm stuck and I gave up. And I asked you guys, what can I do to get around this? Because I hate giving up. I love to find a solution if possible. And you guys said, yeah, obviously just go and find a real, Patriot operator, a real THAAD operator. So that's what I've done. Hello, Mike.
How's it going?
Yes, very well. Well, apart from my massive cold, but very well, thank you. Can we have a quick introduction for me, please?
Yes, sir. So I've been in the Army for about 6.5 years, master gunner. I've been doing air defense the whole time with Patriot system. Just have a very, very brief run-in with that when I went through the school for it. And basically right now I'm just serving as a master evaluator in a brigade. And my job is basically go around and evaluate units when they're going through their gunnery certifications.
Right. After that introduction, I'm going to have to be very rude, Mike, and turn you off just for a minute because I've got to do this. I apologise. This boring talky bit, viewers. So what I had to do at this point is find out why in our sim our IADS, as we had it before, just wasn't working. And so I spent some time trying to figure out what was going on. And what I found was that there are 2 factors that we're interested in. This is the boring talky bit, but again, I think you'll really enjoy it, viewers. There were 2 variables, if you like, that were of interest to me when studying this. One is PK, probability of kill, the probability that when we fire our interceptor that it will kill the target missile. The second is threat, which is related to PK, and we'll come back to that. In terms of PK, it's expressed as a percentage, and no SAM in the world, as far as I'm aware, stand to be corrected, has 100% PK. They always miss a bit to a certain extent. Now, if we look at THAAD, for instance, we had here, in this scenario last time, it had a probability of kill of between about 10 and 95%, depending on how I set the unit up. And that's a massive range, but we'll come back to that. Patriot had a slightly smaller range. It was about, I don't know, 40 to 70% probability of kill. If we went on to the Aegis ships, they have several different types of missiles. Some, like SM2, were terrible, 5 to 10% probability of kill. SM6, I think, was the best, up to about 90%. And SM3 was a bit disappointing at up to about 70%. Now, take those percentages with a huge grain of salt, obviously, viewers. Now, every scenario we run, different scenario, means that you'll get a completely different set of PKs. But this is what we get for this scenario. The next thing I had to do is figure out how you calculate, as far as the sim is concerned, the PK and the threat. So the PK is derived, as far as I could see, from 5 different factors. The first factor is I express as the speed of the incoming target missile and the acceleration, the longitudinal acceleration of the incoming missile when the interceptor is fired versus the speed of the target missile and the long acceleration of the target missile when the theoretical intercept would take place. The bigger the difference, the lower the PK of the missile, because the missile would have to do more work. So I guess what I'm saying there is the more the target missile changes its speed, the more the interceptor has to do work to try and shoot it down, and therefore its PK gets lower. The second factor is similar, a bit more complex, but it's regards altitude. So we take the altitude of the target missile when the interceptor is fired and the vertical acceleration as well versus the altitude and the vertical acceleration of the target missile at the theoretical intercept point. And it's a bit more complex because altitude is obviously relative to air pressure, and air pressure is very sensitive about adjusting the performance of the interceptor. So altitude and changes in altitude are very important. The third factor that I came up with is, I guess I'll call it relative firing angle. So if I draw in a missile, so a missile's coming along here, along that track. If I have my, say, Patriot battery there, and it's facing, that way there, and the ballistic missile is coming along that track there, and my Patriot decides to fire at it when it's there, so I'm firing it off bore by 90 degrees, that's 90 degrees, it has to do a huge amount of work to get in front of that ballistic missile to intercept it. So high angle, low probability of kill. If my battery is placed in front of the missile on the track, so 0 degrees away, it has to do no lateral adjustment at all, therefore much less work, therefore much higher PK. So that's angle. The fourth one is similar to angle, but it's, I guess I'll describe it as track lateral offset. So the further away from the target missile track we place our SAM, our SAM, then again, the harder it is for our missile to intercept that ballistic missile. Obviously, if it's close to or on the track of the missile, then it has to do much less work, and the probability of kill increases. So for this scenario, and if we take the FAT, if we optimize all 4 of those factors, the speed, the changes in altitude, the relative firing angle, and the track offset, altogether, the best we can get is 95%. Our THAAD will hit 95% of the time. If we did the opposite, and in different combinations, we made those worse as they can be, while still being in the performance envelope of the interceptor, then we would see only 10%, only 1 in every 10 missiles were hit. So basically, I've done a little bit of studying and found out those are the things that seem to affect the probability of kill of the missile. The 5th factor is in relation to threats. Remember, I said there was probability of kill and threat, just understanding how the sim side of these defense networks works. Threat essentially is the inverse of probability of kill. So let's say if probability of kill of my missile was just magically 100%, that would mean the threat was 1. That would mean the interceptor would have to fire just one interceptor missile for a 100% chance of killing the target. If the probability of kill was 10%, then the threat would be 10, which means it would have to fire 10 interceptors to have a 100% chance of taking down the target missile. And it's really important to say at this point, this is in the sim. I'm not trying to tell Mike how to suck eggs. I don't know how real IADS work, obviously. I'm trying to work out how the sim works so that we can improve it massively. That's what today's all about, and that's why I've found it so interesting. So what our battery is doing, viewers, is constantly calculating the PK via the parameters that we've talked about and the threat against a hostile missile, probably 60 times a second or something like that. But it's more complex than that, because that's just allowed for one target missile. In this scenario, we're going to fire 180 target missiles at once. They'll be in the air at once. So that THAAD radar, for instance, we've set the range, the scan range, something like 500 kilometers or miles or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It covers this entire battlefield. So that radar will be able to see all 180 target missiles. So those calculations are going to be being done 60 times a second for 180 ballistic missiles that it will be not tracking but keeping an eye on. So that's a huge amount of calculations being done, and that's going to spiral out of control when we add the next factors that also have to be taken into account. There are 3 restrictions to add to that to increase the complexity even more. The first of those restrictions is that when we talk about threat and the amount of missiles we want to fire at something, well, we've not considered that we do not have unlimited ammo. We do not. The battery has a very limited amount of ammo, so it knows how many missiles it wants to fire at a target or some targets, but it also has to balance that with the amount of missiles it actually has in the battery or battery. So that's another layer of complexity it has to do with its calculations. The second restriction is regards the radar. So we've got a THAAD radar here. Real life radars are not infinite, they're very finite things, as good as they are, and they have a certain number of fire channels. Our THAAD radar in DCS has 10 fire channels. Now that may be wrong to real life, I don't know. Maybe Mike will correct me, maybe he won't. But what that's going to mean for this instance is that it cannot support an infinite number of interceptor missiles in the air at once. It can only support 10 in the air at once. Now, that's not actually quite what channels means, but it's near enough for this briefing today. So that's another restriction. It's got to balance all those things, plus the amount of ammo it's using, plus how many more missiles it can see coming, and, how does it want to use its ammo, and how many channels have I got to use them, and when should I use them, and just the calculations are just getting absolutely nuts at the moment that this has to be done. But then we bring in even a bigger one, and that is, well, we've just thought about a single battery so far, one battery against a whole series of missiles, but IADS is, integrated air defense system, is much more complex than that. It means you link multiple batteries together under one umbrella, under one kind of thinking brain. And that's what we've got here, for instance. We've got a small IADS, 1, 2, 3 THAAD batteries as one IADS. Out of interest, this one's got a radar here and some launchers. This one here has got just some launchers, wherever it is there. This one down here, like 10, 20 miles or whatever down here, has got some launchers and another radar. So within this IADS, this thinking machine, we've got 2 radars to think about, which each have a set number of channels, and that just adds yet another layer of complexity. Which missiles are the responsibility of which radar, bearing in mind all the restrictions we've got, many more calculations going on, and that doesn't even start to tackle the idea then that all we've looked at so far is doing calculations from a single point in space against targets. Well, that doesn't exist either, because in the IAD, everything's in a different place. This radar's over here. This radar is, tens of miles over here. The math is all completely different. So all these calculations have to be done specifically in relation to everything's, geolocation. And even the tells where the missile is launched from must be known. And every tell is in a different space. It just so happens these are quite close, but, these ones are tens of miles over here. These ones are tens of miles over here. And so what we've got there is an enormous amount of complexity, even in, what is a video game simulation, of things that have to be thought about in order to moderately reliably be a good IADS and defend against these threats. So viewers, I haven't just been boring you for no reason. What I'm trying to prove is all the massive amount of calculations that have to be done. This is going to lead on. I'm doing this because I'm trying to explain why we got the effect that we did on the previous mission, this one here. What I'm pretty sure happened was we got something that, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call network breakdown. And we'll get network breakdown because of another word I'll make up, processing creep, processing latency. What seems to be happening is that all of these millions of calculations that are being done 60 times a second are being done, but they're not done for free. Every calculation takes a bit of time in the computer, a millisecond, a nanosecond, whatever, a tiny bit of time. And that's okay if the hostile threats are going to stand still and wait for those calculations to be done, but they're not. They're flying towards us at 10 times the speed of sound. Now that becomes problematic because what's going to happen at that point is we're trying to keep up and do all these calculations as well as we can, but we start getting to a point where latency in our calculations start building up, it starts creeping, and we start getting behind ourselves. That gets worse and worse and worse the more time goes on, and those missiles are still coming towards us at 5,000 knots, to the point where the system stops being effective, it starts breaking down, and that's why I've just called it network breakdown. In terms of this one here, I read your comments and you said, "Oh, Cap, it's rubbish. They're not even firing, they're not even shooting the ballistic missiles down." And I watched it back and that was not correct. What happens is they were shooting the missiles down fine straight away to the probability of kills that we'd expected. But as time went on, as the minutes went on, those PKs got worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point where at the end, if you're going to watch it in replay, the probability of kill for all of the missiles went down to 0. Everything was firing. Aegis was firing, Fab was blasting his missiles off, but every single one missed. Why is that? Well, it's because, in my mind at least, the creep had got so bad, the network breakdown had happened, that they were firing at targets that no longer existed, or firing at targets in the past. They're firing at where missiles were, half a second ago. I mean, a quick analogy, let's say you're doing an exam and it's got 10 questions on trigonometry, really difficult to do, takes a long time. You've got 10 questions, you've got to answer them in 10 minutes. That's 1 minute per question you've got to answer. You start doing it and your first question takes a minute and a half. Your second question takes a minute and 20 seconds. You look at the clock and realise, hang on, this isn't going to work. I'm going to run out of time. And you start getting stressed and you start operating less and less efficiently, and it gets worse and it gets to 8 minutes and you're like, oh, I can't do this. You rip the paper up and you walk out of the room. I think that's what's happening to my IADS in DCS. It cannot keep up with what's going on. Now, I hope I've described that so you can understand it, viewers. And that's in the sim. I mean, I'd love to know how relevant, if that is relevant, to real life at all. Because is it possible that a real, let's say, an Aegis carrier group is moving by China, and China launches 200 of her DF-26s at it? They're coming towards the American carrier group very fast, and the American carrier group is doing all the calculations that are required to keep an eye on everything. But is it possible that the similar thing could happen where the calculations become too much and it starts to lag behind and breaks down? I mean, obviously they're much more powerful machines than my tiny computer here, but as well as that, the data they have to handle is, thousands of times more complex. Real life is, almost infinitely more complex, to get a firing solution than this kind of in a vacuum sim we've got here. So it's just something that I found incredibly interesting, the kind of thing that keeps me up at night. Really interesting. That's my attempt to explain why I think the IADS in the sim has broken down. What we have to do now is apply what we've learned to a new IAD and run the sim again. Now, at this point, I'm aware Mike is just probably chomping at the bit to jump in and start correcting me and do all this stuff, but I just want to get my bit done, and then I promise I will unleash him, viewers. So we want to create a new IAD, viewers, but this time it works. So it's just a puzzle, right? And every puzzle has a solution. If I was smart, then like Albert Einstein, I would be able to figure it out by maths and do it to get the most efficient IADs fully working, but I'm not. So I did it by trial and error. I'm on iteration, if I look at the top here, 63. It's my 63rd iteration because I've been trying it again and again with small changes to get the most efficient, the most well-working IADS that I can. And what I found is that there are 3 factors when it comes to making an IADS in DCS, and these may apply to real life as well, I don't know, obviously. And if you optimize these 3 things, you will get the best performance from your IADS. The first thing is location. So the most important thing you can do is the location of your batteries to increase efficiency. And this goes back to these factors we were talking about actually at the beginning of the boring talky bit. Before we carry on with that, I would like to say I want to put a couple of constants in as well, viewers. These are obvious things, but a couple of restrictions. One is that I want to make this IADS, but I don't want to cheat. I don't want to add 500 Aegis ships in and 10,000 missiles. That would work, but it's cheating and it's super unrealistic. So I want to keep, a little bit realistic. I want to keep as less units as possible. Obviously, as well as that, we have to keep within real life geopolitical situations. We have to keep within borders and can't put our SAMs in schools and stuff like that. So the actual placement of our SAMs, we have restrictions on as well. We know, as they did in real life, where the ballistic missiles are coming from. They're coming from these radials here. Sorry, I can't see that for some reason. Here, in real life, Israel presumably would have had intelligence from satellites and probably drone ISR. Saying where the launchers were, therefore they know where they're coming from. I also know where they're going to. In this case, they're all going to this target airbase here. So that means I can now plan pretty efficiently where to put my batteries. What I want to do is take my Aegis ship, probably the most powerful unit, and I want to put it about halfway, about there. Lovely big forward picket line about there. And then as the ballistic missiles came over the top, they would shoot up and easily hit the missiles at 300,000 feet or so and shoot them down before they even became within a couple of 100 miles of the target. But of course, ships can't go on land. So instead, the next best thing, THAAD. I want to put a picket line of THAAD along here to do the same thing, and they can easily reach 300,000 feet as well. But we can't. It's geopolitical. It's Syria, so we can't put them there. So we have to get within the border of the country. Israel is a very small country. In my layman's terms, I think it's a very badly set out country for IADS as well. It's so skinny. It's got no depth from the threat axis. It's got like 50 miles wide. So the best we can do is put our picket line, which needs to be as far away from the target as possible, within reason. We're going to have to put it up against this border here, 50 miles away from the target. Otherwise, in terms of its placement, in terms of its efficiency, which is the most important thing, it's easy for us to do because all we're going to do is balance it around the threat radial, the angle that the average angle the threat is coming at, which we know. Now, really interestingly, although that's easy for me, it must have been really hard for the real Israelis having to do this. The guy who has to actually plan where his, not his Goliaths, what are they called? David Sling and the Arrow 2 and Arrow 3, where am I going to put them to stop Iran's ballistic missiles? Well, he knew where they were coming from, but he didn't know where they were going to. They could have gone anywhere in his country. So he's got to sit and think where the most efficient place, bearing in mind the factors we've talked about, plus many more, are going to be. That's a really interesting job, in my opinion, to sit and figure out where all that stuff is going to be. So placement. So the first placement, viewers, we'll finally get this thing done. It's going to be my picket line. It's going to be 3 THAAD batteries as far away from my target as I can, obviously on the threat axis. Battery 1, Battery 2 to Battery 3. Battery 1 is 5 launchers, that's 40 interceptors and a radar. Battery 2 is another 5 launchers or TELs, and Battery 3 down here, each is I think about 20 miles away apart from each other, is another one, all linked together in IADS, and this has a radar. I had to contact the maker of these assets in DCS, who is CH, I'm sure you know, to help try and optimize the efficiency of these IADS, of this particular IADS here. And what we found with having a bit of an experiment is that we can massively determine the efficiency outcome of the IADS by adjusting, and this is going to be a common feature of today, adjusting the number of radars that IADS has. So I could put 20, 30, 40, 1, none, I suppose, if I really wanted to. And we've come up the most efficient for this battery, for this scenario, is 2. 1 there and 1 there. Anything else, it becomes less efficient. 1 doesn't have enough channels. 3 has too many channels, starts wasting missiles. So 2 works the best, positioned there and there. As well as that, the position and the angle of that radar is important to efficiency as well. In this case, we want to keep the radars as far apart as possible, or as reasonable. As well as that, we want to angle them in relation to each other so that they do not cover each other's scan zone, so that we do not get any duplication of effort. And these are things that we've tested and really are important. So all that stuff we've done, we've increased the efficiency of this IADS as much as we possibly can. Okay, that's the picket line. Now, it's inevitable, viewers, that ballistic missiles will eventually get past this picket line. It will happen. I mean, if for no other reason that there are not enough interceptors here to shoot down 180 missiles, but they'll leak through anyway. They always do that. That's life. So we need a backstop. Our target is here, by the way. So our backstop is going to be a Patriot site, which we've got here. The Patriot site will have 5 tails. Each tail has 12 pack 3 interceptors, total 60 interceptors. The job here of this guy is to pick up any that get through the picket line and shoot them down. Now, this goes on to the second most important factor when setting up an IADS in our sim, which is which units are linked. So I've linked these 3 as an IADS, and that's where you can see that blue box. I've not linked it to this guy here, and that's because if I link it to this guy here, so they come under one brain, it actually becomes less efficient in our sim. You know, probably not in real life, but in our sim. And that is because, well, to be honest, it's just not smart enough. If a missile comes through, gets through, and gets towards the target, sometimes this guy, if it's linked in IADS, will shoot it down, and sometimes it will get confused. It will go, oh God, is that my responsibility or is that Thad's responsibility? Whose responsibility is that? And by the time he's realised whose responsibility he is, he's burned up too much time, the missile's about to hit, and by the time he fires, he's going to miss. So it's best to have that independent. So just to reiterate, the second factor is maybe independence is a better word. Which units are independent and which are linked? In this case, these guys are linked and he is independent, so he can fire completely on his own. Now, because it's a pack 3, only has a range of about 50 miles anyway, and they are 50 miles away, so they're going to deconflict naturally anyway. Okay, so that's everything we've got in from the start that are going to start firing. Oh, and I also put this guy in here. He's not going to fire. I just figured he'd be a good luck charm by putting a C-ram in. That leads us on to our final factor. So we've had location, we've had independence, and now we have timing. So this is why I've taken 63 goes to try and get this right. Everything we've had in so far can fire from the start, but everything to be added in later will only turn their radar on and start firing at a certain point in time. So we've got another battery, a THAAD battery here. So eventually that THAAD battery is going to run out of missiles. Another one needs to take over. That's this guy's responsibility here. He will turn his radar on at 390 seconds, and that's not a guess. I've had to just, adjust it by 10 seconds each time, rerun it and see what happens. 390 seconds is when, on average, he needs to turn his radar on. He's then going to start firing. He's got, another 40 missiles, so I know roughly, because I made the thing, how many ballistic missiles are coming in or what rate. So with 40 missiles, I know he can last about 60 seconds roughly. So 60 seconds after he's turn his radar on, I know he's going to run out of missiles. So the next guy, which is going to be an Aegis destroyer, he'll turn his radar on. 65 seconds after that, this guy will turn his radar on. 70 seconds after that, and 75 seconds after that, this guy will turn his radar on, and that's the last one. All those, again, just worked out by trying it and seeing what happens. Why am I doing that? Well, because that's what I have to do to give myself some efficiency in the IADS. If I don't tell them when to start firing, the IADS in the sim isn't smart enough, and it will just happily just blat away with everything. It just doesn't understand us. Put it in a real life scenario. That Aegis carrier group that's sailing past China, it suddenly sees 10 Chinese ballistic missiles coming over the horizon. It doesn't fire everything, all of its missiles off, because the real life Aegis is smarter. It knows, well, if they fire 10 now, they're probably going to fire another 50, in a few minutes or something. So it's smarter, and our one isn't. So this is our way of manually overriding that and forcing it to be more intelligent. Oh, we actually got there, viewers. So what I've done, viewers, is I've kept the same amount of units, or actually less amount of units, but by taking control of by optimizing them, their placement, physical placement, by changing their independence, so which ones linked to what, manually doing that, And finally, changing their timings, taking control of that manually so there's no duplication of effort or minimal duplication of effort. We're starting to try and mimic what a real life IADS will do, an Aegis IADS or something like that. That's what I've been trying to do. That's why it's taken so long, 3 days, 4 days, whatever it's been now. Yeah, and that's it. We're going to run this. I'm going to bring you back on now, Mike. That's it. We're going to take these sites here. It's the same 180 missiles we're going to be fighting against. And we're going to see with essentially less units than when we started off last time, where we got to the 7-minute mark, how well we can do. At this point, well, I'd like to make a prediction, and I'd love to, make some cocky prediction. But the reality is, the way the sim works, there's 1,000,001 randomizers in there, and it's going to be different every time I run it. But throw your money on the table anyway. How do you think we're going to do against 180?
I think that well, since I haven't seen this one, I don't fully know, but I would say my prediction's got to be that probably about 20 or 30 are going to get through.
20 or 30. All right, that's sensible. All right.
I will say it's like watching one of your videos in live time, and at one point I forgot that this was live, and I was in there watching. I was like, I wonder how this is gonna go.
That's so funny, isn't it? Yeah. I love it. It's quite a fun job this is, because you literally can, as I was saying before I turned the camera on, you spend an infinite amount of hours trying to get the result you want. And then you go and run it, and completely different things happen. So you just have to kind of take it, the rough with the smooth. All right, viewers, I'm bringing Mike back in because I'm sure that's why you've tuned into the video anyway. In fact, just before I do, let me just remind you what we're throwing 180 missiles at the target here. There's the mini IADS that I've set up, viewers. The missiles that we're sending out are generic. Turn that sound off. Are my generic ballistic missile that I use for every country, just because it's easier for me. It'll go maximum speed of 10 times the speed of sound. It hit the ground between Mark 3 and Mark 5, depending on the scenario and the flight path. It'll go up to 300,000 feet because that's where mine are limited to. Mike, obviously I have interviewed a couple of Patriot operators before, or guys in your position, should I say, your expertise, and it's been great, but I haven't had one on for ages. So to answer a quick question I've had for a while, the viewers who I love, a lot of them have tried to tell me that Patriot Pack 2, the one that's going to shoot aeroplanes down, can fire over the horizon, and its missile can be guided to the target via off-board sensors, i.e. by, say, an AWACS, let's say, by a ship radar. Now, I'm fairly confident that's not correct. What do you think with that, if you can say? Obviously, some stuff you can't say, obviously.
Yeah, the only thing I can say about that is I have never actually heard of it fully working. I know it was a concept. It'd be a great asset to have, but I would say if it was working, we'd see it in live action.
Yeah. Again, obviously, I don't know. It's just I've seen no, again, exactly right. I've seen no evidence of that actually happening. The same question is obviously not relevant to THAAD, because THAAD is never going to shoot at aeroplanes. It's going to shoot at stuff that's always going to be above the horizon, which is going to be ballistic missiles, pretty much. In terms of the THAAD missile itself, I think I'm right in saying, Mike, that it's multi-stage, so it's a boost section, and then the front of the missile becomes a kill vehicle, which is going to be not guided, maneuvered by small rocket thrusters, because it's essentially going to be maneuvering in space. It's not going to have any aerodynamic maneuvering. It becomes a kill vehicle, will not have a warhead, because a warhead is not effective at that kind of speed, and ram its face into the target. Have I got that right with that? Or anywhere near right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because of the altitude, it has to have those different attitude adjusters and fins or anything like that, because up there it's just not going to work.
I mean, I've always found that just such a fascinating idea, that what you're essentially doing is firing a mini space shuttle. The booster section is like the solid rocket motors you used to have on the space shuttle. The space shuttle maneuvered with those, little attitude controllers, as you call them, just like this does. It's just you're firing mini spaceships at it. I think absolutely. Oh, clouds coming out. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Anything you want to say at this point, Mike? Because I'm known for hogging the mic.
So I would say that the one thing that I think would make the sim more accurate in real life is having some sort of kill chain in place, if that makes sense. So in a real world scenario, if you got this many air defense assets in one place, you're going to have command and control over all those assets, and there's going to be a kill not necessarily a kill chain, but there'll basically be plans in place for who's going to shoot at what based on where it's coming from, where it's going, altitude, speeds, all that stuff. So that way you're not putting multiple interceptors onto one target. That it's a waste of missiles, especially with THAAD and Aegis being able to shoot pretty high up there. You want that command and control over there, but in the sim you just don't have that.
Roger, and that's why I was saying I had to do all those things. I had to deliberately turn radars on at certain points because I had to sort of manually get that a very simple version of that command, and why some I could link together and some I couldn't, because like you said, there is no kill chain, if that's the right word. Command and control center. Yeah, absolutely.
I will say I am pretty impressed that the THAAD being off board this far is doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, absolutely, it really is, isn't it? Just pause. I just want to see what it does with the tails, whether the tail swivels or not. Because no, the tails don't seem to swivel. No, they're not swivelable tails. Look, they're just sasses. So they are firing. Some of them firing like 45 degrees off bore. That's quite interesting. Missiles, obviously, viewers do not like to turn. There's no missile in the world, even AIM-9X, doesn't really like to turn. A big space shuttle like this is not going to want to turn, but they're doing a great job so far. They fired. Oh, Pack 3's coming out. Pack 3, pause. We have the ability to pause, so we will. What's got through? Now, I'm aware it's quite hard to see. Nothing's got through, so I don't know why Pack 3's firing. Let me just go and check. It's not my eyes. Pack 3 has fired. What is it firing at? I think it's just got confused. Yeah.
Yeah, the operator inside the ECS is probably trigger happy.
He is very trigger happy. No, he should not be firing until they break past that. Well, great news so far. We are 5 minutes in, or nearly 5 minutes in, with 52 THAAD accidentally for Pack 3. Bit of a waste, but it happens. And nothing has got through. There's been no leakage at all. So far, it's already better than we had before. But I can see some confusion. That's too far off board for the THAAD. I've made an error, viewers. Look at that. It can't shoot at this thing here. So it's going to get through. Well, it would be really nice now, as I've made an obvious mistake, if... Oh, look at that one. No, that one tried to turn around and go backwards, but obviously it couldn't manage it. Right, I would really appreciate if that Patriot would fire at this now. Oh, dear. I think I might have to take the blame for that one, viewers. I think this one may have just confused the system a bit. Yep.
Wait a second now.
No, it's just confused. I know that is annoying, viewers, but for the time being, let's just ignore that one.
C-Ram tried to get it.
C-Ram tried to get it. I mean, A for effort. Well, carry on, viewers, carry on. It's only one. Well, what happened last time, if you remember, is it wasn't just a sporadic one that got through. It was one, and then all, if you know what I mean. I think that may have been just a bugged one, for the lack of a better word. So let's carry on for the time being. Right, so we fired 97 THAAD, who've taken out, I don't know, obviously, but I'd guess about 50 ballistic missiles. Pack 3 haven't actually really fired properly. Apart from that weird sort of buggy one, I mean, we've been absolutely, nothing's got through to within 50 miles of the target. So they're doing really well. But the problem is, of course, we're about to run out of them. We fired 107, and we've only got 120. There's a really good point you were saying about the off-bore firing, and that's why these aren't getting shot. They're too far off-bore. It's my fault. It's my fault, and that's because I've already learned from having Mike here that I should have angled my bloody THAAD tails. I should have angled these ones left and angled these ones right. So stupid.
Well, if you think about it in real life, if they were firing air-launched TBMs like these ones are firing, this might happen. So
yeah,
I would say the placement of the system is key. If that is a known threat, if the enemy has an aircraft that can launch that type of threat at us, the placement of those units would be a very key thing to consider before actually, turning the system on.
Roger, yeah. I actually saw another one just get through, which is annoying, but still, that's only two. It's only two. My new THAAD battery is up now, turning on, because the picket line is out of ammo, obviously. So this one is now firing. Hard to keep track of. So I need to remember 2 missiles have got through. 2. All 180 have been fired now. So we've just got to survive. It's 8 minutes in now. 8 minutes in. We've just got to fly. Okay, I can't keep up now. The ships are now in. Sorry. Excuse me. 1 ship is in. 1 ship is in. Now, what can he do? No, I forgot to say, I've removed his SM2s, viewers. His SM2s are basically useless. That may not be true to real life. It probably isn't. But in DCS, they do not make this intercept. So I've removed the SM2s. So they're just SM3, SM6. THAAD, everything's good. Oh, no. Don't do it. Yes! Smashy boom boom.
It goes.
Okay, so we're 1 ship in. We've got 1 ship.
So this is what I was talking about with the kill chain. In this situation right there, this is why you'd want some sort of human control over this. Because if you have SM2s, 3s, or 6s online, you'd want to delegate the firing to whoever has the best PK, highest altitude, whatever, first. So you're not firing a bunch of THAADs, a bunch of PAC-3s, SM6s, all the same target. That's how I think you're burning through a lot of interceptors faster. Yes. Is just not having that human control over it.
So is that a human job then to do that? Or is
it would be, but I would say it's multiple humans. There's many people involved in that, but not enough that it becomes too complicated. Because obviously you don't want to have too many hands in the pot. Nothing would ever get done.
Roger, we're 9 minutes in now. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was going to say 9 minutes in, another Aegis ship has turned on. Yeah, so what I've tried to do is try to stop the duplication as much as I can by timing them on and off, but it's impossible to stop it completely, yeah. So, like you said, you need that full control of a person saying, you fire, no, you fire, no, you fire, which unfortunately we can never have, or, you know, there is a, oh, no, yes! Bring it on, an ESSM just came out. We're really under pressure now, I mean, we're in 10 minutes in. Yeah, there is a kind of scripting you can add into DCS to give it a quote-unquote proper IADS, but it used to work fine, and I found now it doesn't really work, or it just kind of slows down so much you can't use it. So, yeah, as far as I'm aware, nothing. Brilliant. Keep going, boys. Keep going. Smash! Oh, come on. You've literally got... still quite a bit. Come on. Give me a new ship. Yes, new ship's just opened up. Oh, no. Balls, I get the feeling. Yes, we got it! Go.
I'm going to chuck that up to the CRAM again.
Yeah. No, that's definitely it. Oh, they got it again! Oh, still, only 2 have got through. I'm smiling with glee. Because the amount of hours it took to make this thing be moderately smart. No. Oh, no. Yes, they got it again!
Oh!
What's hitting it? It's not the CRAM, I can't hear it. I think it's PAC-3 that I can see. I don't get it. You know what? I don't really care. As long as something gets it. ESSMs are coming from the ships 10 miles away. Oh, that one just curved and missed. Boff. So I think we've had 2 rogue ones get through. I think they were more kind of buggy than anything else. You know, if you looked, nothing, they all just refused to fire. But... you know, the mass has started getting through now, I would suspect, at 11 minutes and 5 seconds. So, you know, the best I can do without cheating, you know, fully cheating, I can reach 11 minutes and 5 seconds. Now, I wonder how many were actually left. I'm going to try and count them as they come in. So, 3 have hit. Hang on, did that one hit? Yes, it did. So that's 3.
I think it's worth saying that all the ones that are hitting are coming from generally the same azimuth. So there could be something about that direction that's bugging.
Yeah, well, that's already one thing I've learned is about they're not swivelable tails on those THAADs, and I've chalked up a whole bunch of inefficiency by forcing those missiles to bend 45 degrees away. So that was stupid, but every day's a learning day, viewers.
So I think that's got a lot to do with how far forward they are. I know that that picket line is part of the defense, but if you had them move back farther, it may reduce that angle, because if there's a missile that gets past them, now they have to fire and kind of turn that missile, whereas they should be all kind of facing directly at them from as far back as possible, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
I think that's why we saw a couple of them doing, 180s and 360s and stuff.
Yeah.
They're trying to shoot stuff that is going behind them. But if they were moved back here more toward the actual the airfield, it may actually increase that. But I don't. In the last video, I believe you had that,
I did.
but there were still issues.
Yeah, what I found was, and that's why I got the picket IADS. Nine got through. So 171 plus 2, I think, were bugged. 171 missiles taken out. 9 got through. Yeah, what I found was, Mike, that I get it completely, but without the intelligence that you have in real life, you just end up with a giant Charlie Foxtrot like that. With having the picket line, what I've allowed to do is be quite efficient by just using the picket line's missiles for the whole first half. So there's no duplication to worry about. The picket line will hold off. Eventually the picket line runs out of ammo. Then the missiles start getting past the picket line, and then everything else starts firing. And that way I've kind of stopped that initial duplication. Obviously in real IADS, you don't have to worry about that because you've got intelligent humans making much better decisions. So that's why I always like the picket line idea in game, because it helps me get over the stupidity of the whole system.
I think it worked really good for the sim. That's why my initial thought was 10 to 20 we're going to get through, because I saw how far forward they were, and I was like, there's going to be more to get through. But I mean, it did actually really well. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah. So bear in mind. So what we've done there, viewers, we've had 180 missiles fired. Just about time on target within 5-minute footprint, something like that, which is about as good as you'll get in real life. They're going at Mark 10. They are genuinely going at Mark 10. They're nasty things to try and stop. The missiles we're firing at them are modelled pretty well. They all have aerodynamic flight models. They're not as good as the planes in DCS, but if you actually go and look at them, they're pretty good as long as you don't make them do crazy weird stuff. And we managed to get 171 with only 9 getting through. I mean, I'm personally quite happy with that, bearing in mind that we've had to work with absolute idiots, because like Mike's saying, these guys are freaking absolute, they just fire everything button. So we've managed to wheedle a little bit of intelligence and efficiency out of them. There's still 9 got through. Would we ever get any better than that? Well, you can keep doing iteration after iteration after iteration. Eventually, maybe we'll even get 180, but we have families and lives, so we're never going to be able to do that, unfortunately. But bearing in mind how much better that was, this is the same amount of units or less than we had last time. Last time we shot down, in my head, let's say we shot down about 60 to 70 missiles. This time we shot down 171 missiles. I mean, it's a massive increase. And what it's done as well is allowed us to understand how the IADS work in game, how much less efficient it is than real life, and how a real life one would work so much better with that human in the loop brain, basically. Just it's a human brain, isn't it? Mike, that's pretty much everything I've got to say, but is there any topics that you want to add in there? Anything you haven't covered or interested in or whatever?
So the only thing I was thinking about is, if you really want to make this, because I know the point of this one was to defeat the 180 missiles.
Yes.
But if you really wanted like a real or more realistic
Yes.
Defense, I think you'd have to have a couple more key players involved in planning it. Just to actually, let me restart that, because that wasn't going anywhere.
Actually, I know, because I've got a perfect thing for that. So the reason I did this US defense thing is because I didn't have the Israeli defense assets. I forgot what they're called. Yeah, but the ones they have, I've now got hold of those now, and that they want me to do a version of it. And because I've got the real assets, it makes sense if we do a more realistic version. Like, this was never meant to be realistic, obviously. It's meant to be a scientific test. But now I've got the real assets that, apparently Israel actually used, modelled to some decency. We can actually start looking at a more realistic scenario where you get the ballistic missiles coming from Iran, going for different targets, and we've got to think it a bit more carefully. Now, I'm just not smart enough or don't know enough about it to set that kind of thing up. But if you wanted to start putting some planning together of how you want that set up, and I can do the nuts and bolts, I can do the clicking in DCS, no problem. We can start having a look at that, if that's what you were getting at.
Yeah. So basically, what I was getting at is, like, if you were going to do a war game, like Iran versus Israel, obviously you'd be shooting at different targets, like you were saying, different airfields, different assets, and all that stuff. So then you would have to go through the process, and I don't know how nerdy you want me to go with this, but In a planning scenario, commanders over these areas, they would come up with a certain list called a CAL and a DAO. And the CAL is the critical asset list, and then there's the defended asset list. And basically, what that is the commander is saying these locations are deemed important, and all those important locations go into a CAL. Then from that, they divvy up the air defense assets based on the criticality of those assets. So obviously, airfields are going to have a high priority. Headquarters are going to have high priorities. So eventually, you have these items transfer over to the defended asset list or the DAO, and that's what you can actually defend. The problem is there's remaining things left on the cow, and unfortunately, they just don't get covered because you just don't have enough assets.
I think that would be. I think that'd be excellent. And I think the viewers really enjoy seeing that with a real scenario, and we get some real targets in there, and you can start saying that's important, that's not as important. Yeah.
Because if you looked at the attack from Iran to Israel, there wasn't all the 180 missiles going into one location. It was spread around to multiple locations, and then you could start having kind of teams plan as like a red team, and then you could have a team plan as blue team, and then you could just have them lay in their assets, or you could lay in all the assets or something like that.
Okay,
however
that's fine. Have you got a Syria map in DCS?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because that would be.
I think I have it. I just don't have it downloaded.
Yeah, do that because that's the one I'm going to be using, and that will show you the bit of Israel that we've got because we don't have the whole of Israel. We've got this kind of northern area, so that will show you the geography we've got. I'll send you a quick kind of version of this, so you'll see where I'm going to be launching the missiles from, and then we can start liaising about where targets are going to be and stuff like that. Anyway, we won't do that now because obviously we don't want to burn up people's time. But yeah, I think that's great. Viewers, would you like to see that? Don't need to answer. I already know you will. Right, Mike. It was lovely having you on. It was, I always learn so much when I do these things. It's fantastic. Anything else before we sign off?
I appreciate you having me. I have hours and hours and hours of stuff to talk about if you had the time, but we both don't have the time. So
both busy family men, and just kind of, I'm already under pressure. I'm in trouble already. I'm 10 minutes over, so it's life. It's life. All right, Mike. Thanks for coming, viewers. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you later. Bye.